Ross and Rachel, Rachel and Ross. Is this the greatest love story of our time or a toxic relationship that was doomed to fail right from the beginning? Debuting in September 1994, Friends took the world by storm and remains a beloved series today, 3 decades later. Among its 6 iconic characters, Rachel Green and Ross Geller stand out as one of TV's most memorable couples. Viewers worldwide watched with bated breath as Ross and Rachel's relationship unfolded, wondering if they'd ever truly end up together. We experienced their journey as if it were our own. We sat on the edge of our seats as Ross yelled at his answering machine,
"Oh my God, did she get off the plane? Did she get off the plane?"
Every single time we relived the awful argument after the girl from the copy place incident, and we still get a lump in our throats when the gang watches the prom video and we find out that Rachel is indeed Ross's lobster. That's the magic of television. Clever writers can sell us even the most dysfunctional, far from perfect relationships as epic romances. We root for couples who, for everyone's sake, should have called it quits long ago, just because we loved their dynamic in season 1 and have been shipping them ever since.
I just don't see why those two can't work things out.
We tear up at scenes that are textbook examples of manipulation. And that's exactly what we did watching Ross and Rachel's ups and downs, breakups, and makeups. Hi, it's Captain Spoiler here, overthinking pop culture, and we're about to dive deep into spoiler territory, so consider yourself warned. As much as we love these characters and root for their happily ever after, Ross and Rachel's relationship is far from something to aspire to. A closer look reveals a dysfunctional dynamic that hindered their chances of a lasting relationship for 10 long seasons.
Is this about Mark?
Oh my God.
Okay, it's not.
Jealousy is a major issue in this relationship, and it goes both ways. We see Ross repeatedly jealous of Rachel, obsessing over her coworker Mark, warding off other guys even when she's single, and resenting her dedication to her new job when they're together. We can try to understand him. He's had a crush on Rachel since high school, loved her unrequited for years, and probably didn't feel good enough for the school star and cheerleader. When they finally start dating, even though he gets what he's always wanted, those feelings don't disappear. He's subconsciously afraid of losing her and sometimes resorts to controlling behavior to feel secure. He treats Rachel's career as if it was his rival, sending her gifts to work, showing up unannounced in her office, and trying to organize a romantic dinner when she's in the middle of a work crisis.
Please, Ross, it was so obvious. It was like you were marking your territory. I mean, you might as well have just come in and peed all around my desk.
If their relationship had been stable, Ross might have gained more confidence over time, but their on-again, off-again pattern reinforces his fear of losing her. That's why he's clingy, possessive, and, even years later, tries to keep other men away from Rachel, like that time when he decides not to tell her about the phone call from the guy she met at a bar. Rachel isn't innocent either. After their breakups, she struggles to accept Ross dating other women. She dislikes almost all of his girlfriends, talks trash about them behind their backs, and even sabotages his relationships. She convinces one of his girlfriends, Bonnie, to shave her head, hoping Ross will lose interest, and she flies to London to confess her love for him right before his wedding to Emily. For Rachel, Ross also has been a constant in her life since high school. Knowing about his long-standing crush on her probably made her take him for granted. It was hard for her to see him with other women because in her mind he was supposed to love only her forever. Both are jealous of each other, sabotage their potential partners, and often try to make the other jealous. Like when Ross brings a woman home right after meeting her at a coffee shop, or when Rachel starts dating a much younger college guy and flaunts their physical intimacy.
Once a cheater, always a cheater.
Here's where everything changes for Ross and Rachel. The cheating. It all starts with jealousy. Ross can't handle Rachel spending so much time at her new job, especially with her handsome new colleague Mark around. Rachel, in turn, feels suffocated and controlled by Ross's constant questioning about Mark and by his sudden appearances at her workplace. This leads to the infamous fight where Rachel declares she needs a break. Hurt and desperate, Ross goes out, gets drunk, and ends up in bed with the girl from the copy place. When Rachel changes her mind and wants to reconcile, Ross desperately tries to cover up the affair, but the truth eventually comes out. This has a massive emotional impact on Rachel. Betrayal is painful, and the fact that Ross was supposed to be the good guy who wouldn't hurt her makes it even worse. Her trust in him is shattered, and she struggles to recover for a long time. Ross's inability to take full responsibility for his actions doesn't help.
I mean, she goes on for 5 pages about how I was unfaithful to her. We were on a break!
He apologizes and begs for forgiveness, but won't admit to cheating. He hides behind the "we were on a break" excuse, claiming that technically they weren't in a relationship. Regardless of whether we agree with his interpretation, it's petty and hard to defend sleeping with someone else just hours after a major fight with the love of your life. It shows Rachel how little she meant to him if he could jump into bed with someone else so soon after a fight.
100 million people went to see a movie about what I do. I wonder how many people would go see a movie called Jurassic Parka.
A good relationship doesn't mean partners agree on everything, but Ross and Rachel barely share a common ground beyond their mutual friends and Monica. They come from different worlds. That alone is not necessarily a problem. Many couples come from different backgrounds and make it work. The issue is that Ross and Rachel don't really try to understand or accept each other's worlds. Rachel finds Ross's fascination with paleontology nerdy, while Ross sometimes acts superior, which leads to their first breakup, if we can call it that, because it happens even before they actually start dating, just after a passionate kiss. Ross tries to decide if he should leave his then-girlfriend Julie for Rachel and makes a pros and cons list. And on it, he calls Rachel just a waitress, hurting her deeply. She's already insecure about being stuck in a low-paying job, and her potential boyfriend's criticism is the final straw. Even when she gets a more ambitious job, Ross makes no effort to understand the fashion world and resents her for having interests outside of him.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? Yeah, I just want to say that you are a horrible, horrible person.
Rachel often gets labeled as the selfish one, but the truth is they both prioritize their own needs. From small petty issues to major life decisions, they put themselves first. Does Rachel consider the consequences of flying to London to confess her love to Ross right before his wedding to Emily? She doesn't care about the chaos she could cause, the uncertainty she could plant in Ross's head, or the humiliation for Emily and her family. Similarly, when Rachel is offered a job in fashion in Paris, Ross does everything in his power to keep her in New York, including bribing her boss. When that fails, he expects her to sacrifice her dream job for their relationship, which is off again at the time. While it's understandable to want to be with the person you love, demanding such a sacrifice without even considering a compromise is selfish. Their inability to think about the other person's needs is a major factor in their constant breakups.
Oh, I am so mad, Ross. I don't think I've ever been this angry.
What about the time I said we were on a break?
We were on a break, and "is this about Mark?" might be funny as recurring jokes, but no one wants to be in a relationship where every conflict is a rerun. Instead of addressing current issues, Ross and Rachel tend to revisit painful past events. They can't agree on whether their infamous Season 3 fight constituted a breakup. The shadow of betrayal lingers upon them, eroding trust, and their mutual jealousy doesn't help. Rachel's career is a constant battleground, whether Ross thinks it's not prestigious enough or resents her for pursuing her own goals. A couple that can't definitively resolve their issues and move on is doomed to repeat the same fights. There's no growth in a relationship where partners keep score and use past mistakes as weapons. You can't build a healthy relationship by holding grudges. All these issues made it difficult for Ross and Rachel to maintain a lasting relationship, despite their apparent destiny to be with each other. Throughout the series, the longest they were together is 1 year. For the rest of the decade, they got close and drifted apart, broke up and got back together, but spent most of that time only as friends, unable to be with each other but unwilling to let go. This isn't romantic. Our emotional investment might make it seem like a grand love story, but it's mostly the result of clever writing manipulating our emotions and the anticipation of a happy ending after 10 years of following beloved characters. In real life, a couple constantly breaking up and getting back together, rehashing the same problems, would be seen as codependent, obsessive, and unable to close a failed chapter. While their story brought us laughter and tears, Ross and Rachel's relationship is far from healthy and shouldn't be idealized. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming soon.